Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Lawanda.
And Tiffany.
And I'm Ron.
And today we are back here to talk about PowerBook II. This is season 2, episode 9. Had to get that right. And this is a good one. Plenty to talk about because so much went down this week and it's leading right up into the season finale. So, it's going to be good. You guys hang tight. We'll be right back with you. We are back, and like I said, we're talking PowerBook II. This is season 2, episode 9, and it was titled "A Fair Fight." And wow, I mean, it was so much going on this week. A lot of things that we have been waiting for, to finally go down. So I don't even know where to start with this one. I kind of want to begin with that opening scene because, Courtneykemp had been telling us that we were going to see some familiar faces from the past. And here they were. Seemed like everyone that Tariq killed or had something to do with their death was haunting him through a dream. So he first is greeted by Jabari, and then Keisha, and then Ray, then Raina, then Kanan, and then Carrie.
Proctor.
Yeah. So it was like so many different people, and you keep like, the ones that he killed, but then it just reminds you of how many other people he has their blood on his hands.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was like, dang, Tariq, you really are out of control. It's different when you see it versus just like recalling it in your mind, and they're all in one place.
That's why I always call him a serial killer.
I mean, he's becoming that, and if I were Tariq, I wouldn't want to go to sleep at night. I mean, he's just got too many ghosts coming at him at one time, and that scene was very indicative of, I think, the beginning of a mental breakdown. It may not be in Tariq's case, but you can imagine if you're being haunted by all, like you said, everybody he's killed and everybody he's had some indirect, responsibility to for their death. That's a lot to come from. Yeah, and then the last so-called ghost or whatever to walk in was Lauren. And so when I watched the beginning of the episode, I was like,
foreshadowing, right?
Yeah. Well, I was like, hold up, everybody in this room is dead. So what does that mean?
And Ghost was on the phone.
Right.
He wasn't there, but he was on the phone.
Right.
But the thing that that tripped me out though, the thing that bowls in his favor is that at least he has a conscience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the problem though.
So there's some hope for him, because he does feel bad about the things that have happened.
And that to me is the bigger problem, because he has a conscience, and this conscience can weigh on you to a point where, and some people, they commit suicide, they do all sorts of things. So it's just interesting, like you said, that he has a conscience, and his conscience is coming back to, nudge him and see where we go from here. Does he continue to pile up bodies, or does he, kind of let that go to somebody else?
I know we're going to get to it later, but you see that Effie is starting to have that same concern about him, like getting soft. And is his conscience starting to make him weak?
Right.
Yeah. That's a lot to talk about there, but there was so much that led up to that ordeal. So if we take it kind of step by step, it all kind of was triggered at the trial. And so basically, Carrie's suicide can't be used in court. And I mean, I think that's fair given the situation. But now Rashad has to come up with another witness. So Jenny had to come up with Rashad to testify. And that was thanks to Kamal. And that turned out to bite Kamal in the butt, because Tate didn't hesitate to throw him right back up under the bus later. So, yeah.
Boy, nobody is off limits.
How do you do that to your brother? You got, I mean, he allowed you to sleep on his couch when you were going through a rough time. He encouraged you to get back on track, and this is the thanks he gets.
And then he was like, he'll be all right.
Yeah, he's smart, but Tate has no cut card. And that's what's a little interesting, more interesting about him for me. He just doesn't give a damn. If you're working with him, you know, I see that he pulled through for Tariq, and even if it meant throwing his brother under the bus, he was going to do, he was going to do what he said he would do for Tariq. So in some ways, it's I can like that about him, but hey, he got what he wanted, and he didn't spare his brother.
It's becoming clear that he got him promoted to serve himself and not so much for his brother.
Right.
Yes. Tate is very strategic, which is why his spinoff is going to be interesting, because I think this is leading, putting all the cards in place so that we can lead into his spinoff. And then of course he got the photo, but he was telling Tariq, like, what I say up here on the stand is going to depend on what you give me. So he finally got what he wanted this week, and he passed it off to Steven, who seemed surprised that he found anything. So he was like, you'll go to no end. And that's a dangerous person to work with, especially in a position of power. Yeah. But that's the name of the show, ain't it? And so there was this witness they talked about that was a drunk lady, and she changed her story several times. So I'm thinking next week we'll probably hear more about that, maybe. And I definitely think Jenny is going to try to follow up with that witness, whoever.
And she said she saw two people, which is true. Tariq and Kane.
Yeah, I had a question about that. Do you think there's an actual witness, or do you think they set that up just so he could have that testimony? I was seeing it both ways, so I didn't really know if there was a person, because it seemed to really work to their advantage.
That's a good question.
Right, but see, the problem with involving an outside party is, can you trust them to keep their mouth shut if they are in on it?
Right. I felt like she was, because he said she kept calling. So she had been trying to give her testimony. They just ain't, give her think it had any credence, because they didn't think she had any credibility, but she been trying to get in touch with them.
Yeah. Right. But, the question is, how valuable is her, how valuable is she as a witness? Because like you said, she's a drunk. She's changed her testimony a few times, and we know what's going to happen when my boy gets next to her to cross-examine. He's just going to make her look like a piece of.
And guess what? If they had put Trace on the stand, the same thing was going to happen.
You got that.
Brayden had already called him out as a dope fiend, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we brought that section up, y'all got to help me. Y'all got to help me with this. Okay. Now, Jenny had a picture of Brayden and Trace, right? And the picture came from the
Ramirez's dash cam.
Then we get his badge in Tariq's dresser drawer. Is it such a far stretch? Huh?
It was Brayden's dresser drawer.
And that makes it worse.
He should be the suspect, right?
Yes, he should have been the one that they were going after all along, because you got the information and you got the tape. So, but they're running after Tariq. Now, is this a black and white thing? I don't want to bring it up, but somebody's got to bring this thing up.
And it's embarrassing too if they realize that they have the wrong person on trial. It's so far gone right now that if they try to run back and be like, "Oh, I think we got the wrong suspect," it's kind of like, I gotta stick with the
and
prosecution.
That's really messed up, because you got all this evidential information that really clearly points to Brayden. You got really nothing on Tariq except circumstances and whatever, and you go after Tariq when I got it. You want to go after the kingpin, but you got nothing, and you got all this evidence on Brayden. I'm I'm concerned. Is it a black and white thing or
and
what?
part of it is the affluence too of his family. So I think that they wouldn't suspect him to be involved in such things.
But Romero has their picture. I mean,
right.
Romero has their picture. How do you overlook that? And the tape. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I couldn't get.
Well, you know what? Maybe Braden will take one for the team next week. I see that they're calling him to the stand.
And Braden has been very loyal, you know, despite him realizing that Tariq, you know, took the photo and gave it to Tate. He still came through for Tariq with the favor to, you know, drive Lauren out of town.
So yeah, but but he had an agenda. Anyway.
I know he did. I know he did, but he still followed through. And I think he has shown time and time again that he's really down for Tariq, or at least he's trying to be. And he even mentioned it to Kane, because Kane was like, you know, he kind of told Kane that he was going to have to take the stand. He was like, you already know I'm not going to say anything.
Right. And even Kane recognized, he was like, I figured you wouldn't. Right. But we don't know what she's gonna say.
Right.
You know, something else too, what I found interesting when he was talking with Effie, and you know, Effie was like, you know, this game came to my door. You volunteered. You jumped.
It's true.
I'm glad she called him out on that.
Yeah, and you're looking for some kind of moral compass with this kind of drug thing, you know. Mm-hmm. Which is, again, and I know we brought that up several times before about Braden just wanting to be in for the game. He thinks it's a game, but I think he's beginning to see now it's not a game. Once you're in, you're in. And if you got to kill, you got to kill. So, question, does he get a body?
I don't know. I was thinking a couple of things. Like, one of the things, I think the race is a factor, but the other part is that Tariq is all alone. He doesn't have anybody to fight for him. Lauren had parents, Braden has his family and their wealth, but Tariq is essentially an orphan. He doesn't have any, you know, and so I think he's the easier target because of his youth, and because of course they know he's done things, but I think he is the easier target because it's easier to come after him because he doesn't have that support. And then I was thinking about Braden. Braden essentially told Lauren, he said, I didn't do this for Tariq. I did this for me. Because he too has a conscience. And I think it's what you say it is, he wants to be in the game, but it's dirty. It's gonna cause him to really have to make a choice. He thinks he's made a choice. He hasn't until he has to kill somebody.
Yeah. And I was surprised. Oh, go ahead, Ron.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to comment back on you. I question though, you know, if you want Tariq, I think there's another avenue to Tariq, and that's Braden and Trace, because you got that information. And so whatever relationship that Braden has with Tariq is, you know, exculpatory. It'll come out. So
that's what she's going after. That's why Jenny said to Braden, like, listen, Trace doesn't have to take the stand.
Right.
He said, if you give me the information I need
for Kane,
you know, for Kane and stuff, like she knows that she's trying to get Tariq on a platter through Braden and Trace.
And I think honestly, Kane would be the bigger catch for her, because she realizes that he's probably at the top of the food chain. She realized who his family is and who they're associated with. So she knows that Tariq is kind of like the their under person, like whoever is below them. So getting Kane would be like the next step up the food chain.
I think he might end up in a bang. Kane, I think it's a good chance that he might get locked up in the season finale.
But without Tariq being locked up? Now,
they might pin him as the shooter, because he was the one that killed Ramirez. Remember, they're not, David said it. They don't care about Jabari. They want the cop shooter.
Right.
And Kane is the cop shooter. So I think if it goes down, they'll probably put both of those bodies on him.
Well, I'm hoping that it's a mistrial. I mean, I think Davis did an excellent job
I hope so too.
Bringing that out. You know, that this could be a mistrial, or should be a mistrial, because evidence was withheld, even though Jenny said she didn't know anything about it. But your team, your investigator, you know, part, you know, hey, if he didn't tell you, that doesn't prevent the scenario of not being able to hand that information over to the defense so they can do their case.
Because it makes it look like you didn't vet all of your your possible suspects.
Right.
Like you just narrowed in on one specific person because of, you know, his family and who he's associated with.
Which is rather clumsy, right? You go after somebody just because of what you think. And to me, they've been very clumsy with this case so far. I think the best move right now, as you said, Tiffany, is the Braden side. Going after Braden is probably your best scenario right now. Because you know, he's already had Tate, an upstanding citizen in the eyes of the jurors. You know, he's already really testified on Tariq's behalf. And you really got nothing on Tariq except circumstances.
And if they go after Braden, heads will roll. People will lose their jobs, and I think they know that, right?
Yeah.
They're being very careful to sidestep and make him a witness, grant them immunity, and not really go after them, which is what they should do, because he, you know, as you think about it, Lauren caught them on tape, so he's the one that's with the drug dealer.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. He's with.
But Trace named Tariq though. Trace was like, but Kane was working with Tariq to sell drugs. Like
he doesn't have any information to that, but he doesn't have any factual information to that. You know, he said that Tariq and Kane were working together. Yeah.
But remember when Trace last season, he stole the drugs out of their little hideaway thing in the dorm. So there was drugs in the dorm. I mean, that Tariq shared with Brady.
But the fact that Trace is not a trusted source kind of negates that. It's
and
like
he's a druggie himself. He could have, you know, I mean, it would be hard to listen or take Trace's testimony and any real value based on his personal.
But I would agree with you if they didn't have the dash cam of them that same night with the bat, because that stuff kind of solidifies what Trace is saying.
Exactly.
Except for the fact that it's very self-serving for him to put it on Tariq and not him, because at the end of the day, it was you who was in the car and it was you who was on the corner selling the drugs. It wasn't
right.
That Ramirez caught on tape.
Right.
And if they ever find the tape of Braden doing an armed robbery,
thank you.
That's gonna come out. That's why I'm saying the Braden with the thing at the heist last week, then the jewelry store heist with Kane, no mask.
Yeah,
all that stuff should come back.
Yeah. And I think at that point, that's when they really have something on Braden, and that's when the attention will really be put on him. And I think in that position, he would give up Kane.
Well, and Davis, and you know, I think once Davis puts all those little pieces together, should that information become available, Davis will say, "Hey, we got to call a mistrial here. You got the wrong man. You got all this evidence on Braden, and you all have gone after my client Tariq, who you have really nothing on."
Yeah, and so I guess the next sequence of events is that Tariq goes to warn. Well, not necessarily. Lauren comes up to him and kind of tells him that Braden was the initial target of the wire, and then she reveals that there was another guy there with him who she feels Tariq was somebody named Lorenzo. And so that's when Tariq puts two and two together, and he's like, "You are in danger. You got to get out of here." Calls up Braden to take care of it. So I don't think Lauren, like Jenny, whoever she had in charge of protecting Lauren and whatever program she was supposed to have had her in, the authorities in this show do a terrible job with witness protection, which is why Tasha needs to be on the lookout because
I'm really concerned with Tasha.
You know, but that's real life. Most people like witness protection, you know, because you know there's a dirty cop somewhere who gets that information. So, you know, if I had my druthers, I'm like, shoot, I'll just give up my phone. I'll give up all electronics.
People still get touched in witness protection.
No, that's true. Right. I mean, to be on witness protection, that's not really much of anything because people get touched all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a momentary witness protection where they took her off the street for maybe a few hours. But
she was on campus. I was like, where the authorities?
Nowhere to be found.
Lauren. That's on Lauren and her parents. She should have been gone.
Gone. Yeah, she should have been gone. She should have been gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of out of control. And then I think I'm gonna have to put Tariq on the hands this week, on our hands list, because I think he did too much pillow talking.
Yeah, he
talking
did.
to Effie,
Yeah,
and telling her, like, you don't go to your current work and tell her about your old work.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna say, you booed out fellas, let that be a lesson to you. Like, if you with a new boo, your boo don't want to hear about your old boo. We don't want to hear that.
You're not
Especially when she's already showed you you can't trust her. Effie has already showed you that. I don't know.
Ron, didn't I tell you? I told Ron, I said, you can't trust Effie. And he's like, Effie's my girl, Effie's my girl.
No, look, you're right. You're right. I'm going to give you, I don't do this often, but I'm going to give it to you this week. You were right. I hate to do this, but I'm going to give you your glory today because you were right. And it's bothered me. I got chills that I got to actually bow down to that.
That's all right, because I was wrong about Mecca. I was all team Mecca, and Mecca turned out to be a rat.
Oh, he a rat.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that for sure.
I want to get back to what with Tariq and Effie, because Tariq made, and after all the mistakes you just pointed out, I think one of the biggest mistakes he made is when he got up and said, you don't know Lauren, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, he was defending her.
He was defending her.
Oh my
and
God.
Like, she really was a snitch. Like, she ratted on him. And Effie told him, like, she's the whole reason you're on trial for murder right now.
Yeah, that's right.
So Effie was right to feel the way she felt, but at the same time, she looked a little jealous too. Like every time he started talking about Lauren, she was looking like this N-word. Like, and I felt her, because who wants to hear that?
Yeah,
and especially after she just held it down for him the previous week with Monet doing his work on the business side. So it's like ungrateful.
So I'm
but I think she missed the point. He said, look, it's not what you think it is. I feel like she is in the exact same position that my mother was in when she met Ghost. And we've seen this movie before. And I don't want it for her, because I think it was more about him feeling guilty than it was about Lauren. It was about him involving her in his mess.
Exactly.
And it didn't have anything to do with her. So I feel Effie being jealous, but she didn't hear him.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Did you notice that Tariq talked about, like, you've mentioned his mom, but he felt exactly what you said, because he said he keeps involving, people keep having to run off because of him and his BS.
Exactly.
And I'm glad he recognizes that now. I'm glad he, verbalized it. Let it sink in, let it marinate in your soul so you can stop your nonsense, Tariq.
But then again, it goes back to, what was he thinking? If he knew that Lauren just wanted to be a straight A student, have a nice boyfriend, then what is she doing with you? I mean,
he's like his father.
Yeah.
He's just like his father with Angie. He thought that he could have both sides of the world. He could have his cake and eat it too.
Oh, now wait a minute.
Be in the underworld and have a pristine lifestyle.
I'm sorry, I gotta jump in here for just a bit.
No. Of course he does.
I'm
Ghost
saying,
Defender.
No, I'm just
number one fan.
Oh my gosh, that's what I said. I was like, he should have been on that team with Proctor.
Look, guys. We know Ghost was trying to get out of the business.
Right.
And so he was trying to legitimize himself by going with this woman Angela, who had his back.
What his dream? Yeah.
Exactly. And so to me, that's a bigger difference than you knowing Tariq, being in the game, heavy in the game, and you messing with somebody like Lauren, with whom you can only cause trouble for her. I mean, it's not.
So we on the same page then.
No, I'm saying, and that's why I brought it up. I said, Tariq is not like his dad in the sense that his dad wanted out. His dad wanted to start clean, get a woman that was going to be on his side, because we know.
We know. Right. Tasha wants to stay in the game. Right.
Tasha wants to stay in the game. So that's a little different for me than picking with a young lady that is not game worthy. Her agenda is not where you are, but yet you involve her anyway. And to me, that's just.
Here's the difference, though. Tariq is on the show is only 19, so he's a kid. So he was thinking with his heart. He knew good and well that she ain't, for the game and then about that life and everything. But
he knows what comes with that life.
But he also 19.
Yeah, but
he also has the horrible choice in women.
Yes.
Yes, all three of them. For real.
He really got
them.
betrayed by everybody.
Every last woman.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about Miss Diana.
That's why he needs his mother in the picture so she can help him choose wisely.
Yes, he needs a filter, somebody to let him know.
I think she would have chose Effie for him too.
She wouldn't have trusted Effie either. After Effie got him kicked out of Choke, there's no way Tasha would have been team Effie.
Right.
She'd have been like, that's the bee that got you kicked out of school. Oh no.
Yeah. And I was thinking too, like, you talked about Braden's conscience. Lauren, she better be lucky that Braden has a conscience and he couldn't follow through with it, because he gave her a second chance to get away. But of course, we know Effie screwed that up. But I looked at Braden, he kind of like just looked at Effie like so defeated, like he wanted to do something to stop her, but he really knew he had no choice. And so I feel like that haunts him for the rest of, going forward.
Let me just say that I'm not sure, even though we saw at the end, we saw Effie's countenance, her demeanor, she looked real guilty. She looked like she killed Lauren. I'm not sure that Lauren is dead, only because, Courtney said in one of her Q&As, someone asked about the possibility of Tasha getting killed off screen. And she was like, I wouldn't do that to y'all. She was like, so, and it's been the pattern of power. Like, most people don't get killed off screen. Like, even when Tommy took Keisha and hit her for Milan, we didn't know for a while whether Keisha was dead or alive, but found out that Tommy had actually stashed her. So not that I think Effie has any type of love for Lauren or sympathy or anything like that, but she may have.
You think maybe she locked her in the basement somewhere?
She may have, until after she may have sent her away. I don't know. I mean, her demeanor said otherwise. She looked real guilty, so she could possibly be dead. We're gonna find out. But because we didn't see it on screen, this, that, and the other, I kind of until her body shows up or we get any other explanation, I'm going to say
So if we talk about her appearing in Tariq's dream, then with the rest of the dead people, was that just Tariq's conscience?
But he didn't let her come inside.
Is that his conscience saying, like, I could get her killed, like her association with me could get her killed?
Foreshadow, yeah, because he stopped her from coming in the room. He said, don't come in here.
Yeah, right. That's death room. But two things about that, Tiff, and I agree with you. I agree with your analysis because I felt the same way. But a couple things that kind of made me think Effie offed her. And number one, the countenance that she had getting into the bed with Tariq.
Yeah, no blood on her clothes though.
And the song that was playing, and I'm like, okay, this is deep, because that song was really.
That song was heavy.
That was heavy. And I could see that running through her head. Because even when Tariq moves over toward her a little closer and
she was like,
and she was very, so, and knowing Effie, who, at least for what we know of Effie, I would think that,
she's about it.
She's about it. And she knew Effie had to go. I mean, she knew Lauren had to go. I think she might feel bad about it. I think that, it wasn't her position to have a body on her. But knowing what she had to do after talking to Kane.
But she told Braden to basically man up and do what he needed to do.
Right.
So she has to take her own advice. I mean,
exactly.
It sounded real good when you telling it to somebody else, but when you have to do it yourself, I think if this is her first body, it hits different when it's you in that position versus giving advice to someone else.
Yeah.
But is it the fact that she had to do it or the fact that she's going to have to lie to Tariq about doing it? Because the other thing is we still don't fully know Effie's story. So it's still they still have to unravel her backstory so we fully understand her. How is she around Tariq's age in the game and as sophisticated as she is? You know,
a lot of people speculate that she has some kind of tie to Mecca, and I don't know what it would be or how that would have occurred, but I think somebody asked in the Q&A, and I don't think Courtney gave like a distinct. Of course, she's not going to give it away, but she didn't deny that there was anything there. I don't believe.
But it's kind of interesting that let's say if that were true, that Mecca is so gung-ho on saving Monet and her children, but here Effie, let's say Effie is close relations, maybe daughter, cousin, or whatever, and you don't have any kind of feelings or bond with Effie. And I think that's, to me, that's a little crude, and it's a hard pill for me to swallow, that Effie and Mecca are related in any way. But again, I could be wrong.
I thought he could possibly be her connect, because she was saying at one point, she was saying that her connect had stopped answering the phone. And stuff. So I was wondering, I was like, was he her connect?
He could have been an older man that schooled her in the game too. So we don't know. But I think that's going to be an interesting part to understand why she can be in that position and be so resolved about what has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, while we're on the topic of Mecca, Kane kind of bucked up against him this week, and
he got yoked up too.
Yoked up good. I mean, you know, what is wrong with? He literally picked him up off his feet, it looked like, but
Kane letting him know he ain't no punk.
He ain't no punk. I mean, look, got it, Kane. Yeah, you gotta do that, but you ain't messing with no, jive dude here.
I was gonna say, we've seen what that kind of defiance has gotten Mecca's friends. So
well, look, didn't we say last week we knew that Mecca knew that Kane was behind it?
Exactly.
We knew that.
Yeah, there's no way he's that stupid to let something like that slip his radar. So yeah, that was for sure. He definitely knew, but he told him, like, I don't care about the drugs. I know you were in on that. Where is my bag?
He wants that ring.
Yes, and we know
it was about the secrets, because that bag had all them government secrets and stuff in it.
Yeah, right, exactly right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And so, Kane is put on as his number 2, and I don't know why Kane wasn't thinking that fully through. Like, I'm his number 2 now. And then Monet kind of called it out later on in the episode, where she was like, "So this guy locked you in his house with the cell phone and didn't kill you right there on the spot?" And so she's like, "Send me a picture of this guy." And I was like, "Oh, here we go."
Yep.
It's about to go down.
Now she knows.
But before we get there, though, Kane also had to make a phone call to Lorenzo and let him know that we're not going to be able to give you your supply because we got robbed. And so on top of all the other bad news that Lorenzo has just gotten, you can see the room is clearly torn up from his meltdown from the dinner. But then he gets this bad news, and he starts breaking up the mirror in front of him. And, Drew and Diana come in, and Drew finally confesses to what they did with robbing the Connect and how Monet was still trying to sell at Sandsfield.
I thought Drew was going to tell him. He's like, he's not going to. I said Drew was going to tell.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Stay out of grown folks' business, for real.
Those kids are people pleasers. Like, I told you, they want their parents' attention and approval so bad.
And you know what? Again, Tariq making bad decisions, because Tariq should have been the only one who knew where his drop was. Nobody else should have known where the drugs were. Yeah. And then not correct me, but help me understand, why did we need Drew to get Everett's card when
they need access to the building?
The QSR code.
Yeah, but I'm saying, why couldn't Diana have gotten Tariq's card?
She could have gotten Tariq's card, but I think he would have noticed that it was missing. Right. But at least with Everett, like, he could just think that, like, oh, I dropped it on the floor or something like that. But Everett, I think, like, he's easier to persuade too. Like, oh, I just borrowed it, even if it comes up again. But Tariq, I think it was already too much that she went over there crying on his shoulder, talking about her family. She already seemed kind of suspect, especially how she, like, kind of felt like disheveled when he walked back in the room. So I was like, I know Diana has been trained to manipulate, but Tariq, I think he is gonna start catching on to her real soon.
I had hoped that it would have been sooner than later. I said, here she is with her feminine wiles, and she's throwing them on Tariq and doing it well. And Tariq bought the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Every time that happens, I think about Tiffany and what she said a long time ago.
Kryptonite.
Yes.
But you know, Diana is becoming a character that almost like you love to hate, because I'm really trying to understand her motivation. I know she wants to be seen. I know she wants to not be counted out when it comes to running a business, and she wants her parents to kind of validate her. But it's like the length she's willing to go to and throw anybody under the bus. No one's sacred, you know what
I mean? And you know, after she lost her virginity to Tariq, I would think that she would be like way more hesitant to be deceitful this early on after something as major as that for her.
She is Monet's daughter. Yeah. And what's it called? Kane said last week, he was like, you acting like Monet and stuff. He told her last week she is starting to act like him. And then Drew read her this week. He was just like, you always in people's business and you talking too much and stuff. And I was just like, see, that's what I meant when I said, you know, yeah, Monet was wrong. You know, nobody's excusing what Monet did and stuff. But the way Diana handled it, I was just like, that's why child and stay in a child's place, man. That the whole family is torn apart over that.
Yeah.
It's not going to take Tariq very long once he realizes that the drugs are gone, who it could have been. And so, and that brings a very
it could look like it's Braden too, because him and Braden had previously had that argument about him giving the picture to Tate. And so I think that like before he called for that favor about Lauren, like that's kind of where their situation left off. They weren't in a good place when Braden stormed out the room. So he could think, damn, maybe Braden backstabbed me.
Yeah. He took all the weight.
I just have
all of it.
They don't have a camera out there.
Well,
they have all the security, but they don't have a camera.
Well, like I said, it was a bad place to put the drugs in the first place. And secondly, you know, Diana should have never known. No one should have known his drop. Nobody.
Right.
And, you know, as far as facial recognition, I don't know if they make cameras that have the thermal
imaging.
Yeah, thermal imaging, because you would think that's what you would need, because all she did was took a picture
of Tariq's face.
Yeah, I was thinking
and that's in 2 dimensions. You usually have to have a 3D image in order to unlock something like that.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it would have been that easy.
His picture and use it even to get into his phone.
Right.
Because most of us have, you know, password protection and all types of stuff on our phones. I was like,
okay. Yeah, that shouldn't have worked.
I have a comment for Tariq to be a drug dealer, to be on trial for double murder. Your door is never locked. Your phone. I'm just like, what is this kid doing? Like, it's weird to me how he doesn't have any kind of sense of protection, or I need to protect my information or my stuff. And most men, regardless of who the woman is, they don't leave that phone around anybody.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
they will guard them phones with their lives.
Especially a burner phone.
Look, I'm a married man and I keep my phone about. I mean, so, and look, I got no, you know, no secrets in my, you know, in my house. My wife can take my phone whenever she wants. She can look at it. I don't care. But the main thing is my phone is with me. Where is it right now? Right here with me.
Yeah.
It's not upstairs. It's here with me. So you're absolutely right. Men keep their phones with them.
They do.
Right. So, I mean, that was, I guess in terms of Tariq, I would think he would be more careful with something like that.
But he's not. That's the funny thing.
He's not, though.
And that's the funny thing about this whole thing with Tariq. It's like one flop after another. It's like nothing really. It's like I haven't really bought in that he's such this kingpin type drug dealer.
He's not yet. Well, I think this is the makings of him.
But
he's 19. He's 19.
But he's smarter
born into privilege. But he's born into privilege. He wasn't brought up in the game. And I think that's why, as much as we were angry with Tasha for trying to teach him the game, I think that was a calculation that she made. Like, I'm like, same thing as Rock and Raising Kanan. Like, these kids they're gonna get themselves killed if I don't step in. And I think that's both the calculation that Tasha and Rock made for this.
I was gonna say, even outside of the game though, you are juggling 3 women. If that's not a reason for you to take your phone with you, I don't know what it is.
I mean, come on. It's just that the mistakes that he's making.
He should have talked about Ghost. He should have talked to Ghost about that.
The mistakes that he's making are so detrimental that any one of them could ruin him. And he's smart. He's a smart kid. So I'm just confused because some of the mistakes that he makes, yes, he's young, but some of the mistakes that he makes just isn't. They're not smart mistakes at all. I mean, these are just, I don't know how to put it. Like I said, with your stand.
Young kid with girls. Like, the only girl we had seen him with before was Destiny in the original Power. That was like his first. And then Effie, and I think they kissed, but I don't know if they had gone any further in the original Power. So I think that I don't think he's just that experienced with women yet.
Right.
He's learning, but I would think, I don't know, maybe it's just, and this is a bias I have that I've always thought, because I'm from the South, the East Coast dudes was kind of with it. They were a little fast, fast to catch on, and they had more
That's
game.
in New York.
Yeah.
But he went to private school though. Remember that school he went to and stuff? I mean, I think he was
privileged or not.
Yeah.
But you know what, Tariq, he did kind of show some savvy and some finesse later on in the episode once he confronted Dante with the information that he had. And I was like, okay, I was like, that was a good way to twist it. He's like, you gonna rat on me too? Go ahead. And I was like, okay, I like that.
Yeah, but David saved the day for that, because he called him and gave him, all that information before he saw Mecca. So that was a good move. And like I say, he makes these dumb mistakes, but he's smart enough to get out of them. So you got to keep him, I guess I have to keep him up in my head, because, he seems to be able to get out of this stuff. But
I mean, when we see Raising Kanan, the same thing is happening. Like, the Kanan that we see in Raising Kanan as a young child, all the mistakes that he's made is clearly not the Kanan that we saw that was being real strategic and scheming on Ghost and his crew in Power. So as a kid, they're learning, trial and error. And I think that's what we're seeing with Tariq.
Yeah. And since we brought up that scene with, him and Mecca in the room, he first went through Mecca's bag before he arrived and seen the passports. It looked like it was only for Drew, Monet, and Kane, though. I don't know if there was another passport in there for Diane and Zeke. And I was like, what's going on there?
I thought he had all the kids.
I didn't. Well, if he did, they didn't show it.
Right. I didn't see Zeke. And so, in fact, when they at that gun scene, Monet came back and said that they were shooting at Zeke.
Right. Well, she was saying that, did anybody follow you? And he was like, no. And then he asked her, could it be Lorenzo? And I think that's when she thought about it and was like, okay, maybe this is his payback. Maybe he's trying to either come after me or Zeke. And she seems to believe it was Zeke.
Yeah.
Man, Mecca set that whole thing up. Mecca, he's a rat. And he was doing rats do. I think he set up the shooting to make it look like Lorenzo.
Right.
I think he
but does he know? It didn't seem like he knew that there was trouble in paradise for him. So even if he did set that up and there was nothing going on between Monet and Lorenzo in terms of their relationship, why would she believe it was Lorenzo that
I don't know, because he said it on the thing. He was like, "You think it could be Lorenzo?"
Right.
He said it on the scene once the folks shot at him. He said, "Do you think it could be Lorenzo?" And
right, but why would he come after his wife if there's no trouble in their house?
No,
there is trouble because they broke up. She went to his house. She's been
when Monet was talking to Zeke, she said, and he asked her about Carrie. Did you have anything to do with Carrie?
She lied.
And she said, oh, no, I came straight here. I was here the whole night. And then Dante had this look on his face. Yeah, and he was like, and then he kind of backed her up eventually. So that leads me to believe that she wasn't there.
But look, Dante set this whole thing up from the beginning, even with the sports interview. Dante was the one that released that.
Oh, he leaked that. He leaked that too.
Because what he wanted to do was take them all away and go ghost. That's what he wanted. So he knew that once that was released and he wouldn't have a basketball career anymore, that he could grab Zeke, Monet, they can go ahead and disappear. So he set this whole thing up. I mean, smart as hell.
But you know what? So. Now that Monet knows who Mecca / Dante is, I don't believe that Monet is all the way down with him like she says she is. She's not ready to just pick up.
She's setting Mecca up now.
Exactly. So they both setting each other up.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I just think it played out perfectly how it was revealed, kind of, because now you have, on the surface, it looks like they're on the same page, but behind the scenes, they're both plotting on the other.
I wouldn't. Go ahead.
What's that?
But what do you think she's gonna do when she finds out he's a rat? She doesn't know that part.
Tariq is going to tell him. Tariq is going to tell them.
Right, and
when she knows that, you know she ain't going nowhere with him.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about that because that was a big revelation this episode that I think we kind of knew based on the hints and the style of Mecca's dealings that he was some kind of military. And so when he revealed that, no shock, but he talked about excuse me, being in Georgia and training some of the other new recruits, I guess, that were coming in, and it was the School of the Americas or something like that. So that's a real place. I actually Googled it, and it was very criticized because of how, like, many, I think at least 12 dictators from other countries had passed through that school. And it was like basically a training grounds for Latin American recruits where they could send them back to their countries to fight different causes prominently against like communists and stuff like that. But they were also notoriously known for being incredibly brutal and committing genocide and all other kind of human rights violations. So eventually it got shut down, but renamed to something else. And I was like, okay, I like how they kind of incorporated some realism to the show. But the fact that Dante is like not just a regular snitch, he's not snitching on low level people. He was a snitch on Lobos. And I do like how they tied that back into the storyline too. I was thinking about the Lobos scenario and how they could have worked together.
No, I think that, he may have been, Lobos might have been a distributor for Mecca. Mecca may have gotten drugs from him, learned some things about him, and that's how he was able to use that against Lobos. But then it was funny that he did say to Tariq, tell your, if you could tell your father, thank him for taking care of Lobos so that he didn't
see him in hell. Yeah.
Hell or something like that. That was kind of funny. But he was, like they said, he was such a big snitch that the government took him out of the country to keep him safe. So, and now it makes sense why he's able to do what he's able to do and be comfortable about it, because he still works for the government.
Well, now it makes sense why he's trying to dip as fast as he is too. He trying, because I do believe that there are people after him. I think even though I think he set up that shootout, I do believe people are after him, and that's why he's trying to get Ghost.
Because that firefight was nothing. Nobody got injured. No
that was
anywhere. Yeah, that was a little hard to believe, but I believe he set that up.
Yeah, and I definitely believe that he's trying to incorporate more I guess more problems into that household so that he can really manipulate the situation with Monet, because if she has nobody else to turn to, then she has to come back to him. And I think it's the same thing she did with Zeke. He can't run back to Carrie, so I got to cut her out the picture. And I'm like, they're kind of the same person in a lot of regards. And we got to kind of learn the backstory on Monet and her situation with Zeke. And she revealed how she got pregnant at 16. Her mother wasn't very fond of Dante. And eventually, before she could even give birth, Dante got arrested and she got sent down south where her sister Lena, who had always wanted a son, kind of took the responsibility for Zeke. And so even though I think that it was kind of a good thing to hear the truth about how it all went down, Zeke still was not feeling her. And I think it's unrealistic for her to expect him to just be like, oh, okay, it's okay. I'll welcome you back with open arms. I understand your situation.
But you know what? Okay, I don't believe a thing that comes out of Monique's mouth. Monet's
She lied to him like twice more this episode.
But remember, an episode or two ago when Dante, when they had that discussion.
Yeah, she lied and said that wasn't his fault.
Right. Well, not only that, Monet pretended to not know what really happened to Dante, and presumed that Dante just disappeared. But here we hear her with this account of how it went down, 1, 2, 3, 4, how her mother felt about Dante. Which is right? What part of that is right?
Yeah, it's hard to tell with her because we don't know her backstory all the way. So we're just kind of taking her word for it right now.
I don't believe a word comes out of Monet's mouth.
I understand in season 3, we're supposed to see Zeke's mom.
Yeah, Courtney said she had somebody in mind that she wanted to cast as Monet's sister, but she didn't reveal who that person was. And since this is going to be Courtney's last season with the show, I think she kind of put in a good word for who she would like cast in that role. But I guess we'll have to wait till next season to figure that out. But I just thought that Zeke, like, I really felt bad for him getting like all of this bad news and then going to his press conference and announcing that he was going to be dealing with a private trainer now and leaving Stansfield behind and all the negative influences. And then boom, everybody in the room gets to report simultaneously, that, you know, all of that thing with his age. So
you need to stay away from the press conferences. I mean, he seems to keep getting ambushed every time he does one, or, you know, an interview. So he needs to stay away from the media.
True, and he's not agile enough to talk his way out of it.
Right.
Although they had it dead to rights. I don't know what he could have said, but you know, but it was also
be as shocked as they are. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that is true. But his eyes were like shifting back and forth. You know, I'm like, okay, brother, you look like you know, you're guilty.
Yeah, and you know, Monet kind of said something this episode where she was like, you know, Zeke, he struggles to think for himself. And so I'm like, does he have some kind of like, I won't call it a disability, but like some kind of delayed, you know.
You're saying you think he's slow. You're trying to say, find a nice way to say it.
Nice way to say that he used to ride the short bus. Is that what you're saying?
Right. That's what I've been trying to figure out about how do you pass off a 4-year age difference? Because I mean, you take the size out the factor because people can grow into that size, right? He didn't always have to be big as a child, but mentally at some point you start to know how old you are. So it had to be something in order for him not to know, remember, be able to look around his peers and figure out that he's older than everybody else.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if that comes up more because I really want to know if that was intentional, that they made his character like that. And I think somebody asked Courtney that in the Q&A, and she was kind of saying, she kind of said like with the age thing, it's as simple as, you know, your parents tell you you're one age and that's not really the case, but you're too young to really know otherwise. So you just go with whatever they tell you are.
You can do that with years, you can't do it with 4.
How old are you when you start, say, kindergarten?
5.
About 5, 6.
Oh, yeah.
So he's 9. And, you know, at around 9 or 10, you're more familiar with the world than a 5 or 6-year-old, even regardless of what people tell you.
You should already be reading. You should be doing, you know, algebra, not algebra, like at least your basic math.
Basic math. I mean, there are things
to go into what kindergarten, and you already should.
And imagine how big he would have been at 9 years old compared to a 5-year-old kid. So look, I get it. You know, you did it for the show, but it's just a hard pill to swallow. I can't see a 9-year-old kid sitting in kindergarten with a bunch of 4 and 5-year-olds. Or maybe 4, 5, and 6-year-olds.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna take care of that next season and explain it. But one of the things that struck me was Monet said when you came to us for school. So I'm thinking that he came when he was younger, and maybe that could explain like he was a child of neglect or something. But yeah, I'm interested to see how they're gonna take care of that.
I also thought it was interesting how when Monet was telling Zeke that she was ready to flee town with Dante, she said, me, my kids, and Zeke. And I was like, so Zeke not your, like, you told him the truth, but you still not claiming him as your kid? So I just thought her wording was interesting when she said that.
I think it's conditioning because she's been so conditioned to, refer to him as her nephew. It probably just, just easily slip off the tongue as my son.
I have a question. What would have been so bad about telling Lorenzo that she had a child? Or is it just
Courtney said in the Q&A, and we have not seen that yet on the show, but she said that she lied to Lorenzo and told him that she was a virgin.
Okay.
So that's the other betrayal. Okay. So Courtney, like Lorenzo thought he was the first, and here she done had a whole child over here. So Monet she lied all over the place.
All over the place. Like I said, you can't believe a word comes out of her mouth. I want to get back to one other thing though with Lauren and the fact that if she is dead, why we didn't see her be taken out. I think because everybody loves to want to love Lauren. I mean, she's the innocent one of the whole group. And I don't know if the fans could have taken it. I don't know if it was necessary.
You gotta look at social media. It's a lot of people don't like Lauren.
I know, but this is what I'm saying is I don't think it was necessary to see her be taken out. I just don't think it was necessary. Now, like you said, I would wholeheartedly agree to the fact that maybe Effie had a change of heart and had her stashed somewhere, but we all know that's not going to work because she will make a phone call. She's going to, get back on the grid some kind of way. And now Effie has to answer to Kane, and it's just, to me, a big mess. If Effie didn't take her out, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, and I wanted to say just one, well, I guess it's like a question for you guys, because now that Tariq has this information about Dante and, he knows that he's a rat, does he still, try to warn Monet at least about something about him, especially now that Kane and Monet know who Dante / Mecca is? Does Tariq try to give them the heads up? And then I'm thinking, if Tariq goes to try to physically meet with them to give them the drop, Mecca gave Tariq a tracker and told him he better keep it with him at all times. So
I think he's gonna follow up, because when Kane communicated with Monet and said, listen, Mecca knows that we hit up the spot, took the drugs and stuff, and he's on his way. I think he's going to kill Tariq. Monet said, you better warn Tariq. Kane texted Tariq and said,
he knows.
Mecca knows. He has a tracker on the bag. And that's when Tariq was like, oh, and he went through the bag, took pictures, sent it to Davis, and that's how he got the information. So since they did warn him, I would think that Tariq would in turn follow up and say, you know what? Had Davis look into him, he's a big time rat. But I definitely believe that Tariq is going to tell Monet, communicate that, even if he communicates it through to Drew or Diana or whatever. I mean, I definitely think he's going to communicate that to them.
Because I was wondering if he keeps that to himself or if he tries to use it as leverage against them in case something else pops up where he needs to get Kane or Monet in line.
That's what I was thinking. I think, does he wait to see how things play out before he decides to use the information? Because there's still a lot that he doesn't know. Like once he figures out that this is Zeke's father, that Monet has a past with him, does he wait?
Yeah.
Well, remember, he did ask for $2 million from Mecca.
Yes.
But he said he had to get the bag back. He said, I'm not setting that up until I get the bag back first.
Right.
And I'm assuming by when he says the bag, not only the documents and all the passports, but I want that ring back too, which means he's going to have to do some backtracking with Davis.
Yeah, that ring's gone.
That ring's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tariq is going to have a tough time doing that. And I think, demanding the $2 million, that's a good amount to set him up good. especially since he's seen Yaz with her new adopted parents this week. I think that really struck a chord with him, and it seemed kind of like final, like dang, the Warren told them it's too late to try to do anything about it. It's a done deal.
That's terrible.
But I mean, I thought it was supposed to be sealed. The fact that he showed where the family lives, I was like, Warren, I mean, you seen how Tariq was just about getting ready to jump up and roll up in their house. I don't think that's a good idea to give this guy, the adoptive family's address.
But
I think he recognizes that she's better off, because with everything that Tariq has going on, he does not have the wherewithal to take care of Yaz right now anyway. So I think if he knows where she is, he may do like he did, like being a spectator and pop up from time to time and just watch her over the time,
Yeah,
but it's gonna be rough for her, knowing she probably will look back on it and think like, dang, Tariq, you didn't fight hard enough for me. You didn't try to get me back.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad because he stopped to, he was actually probably going to knock on the door, but then he stopped and realized that she's better off where she is. And again, that kind of forethought, I think, should have gone with Lauren. He and I'm sure he has a more kinship to Yaz than he does Lauren. But and that would make sense that he would think that way. But I would think that he would have done the same thing for Lauren. Just kept her out.
This is his flesh and blood. I mean, you gotta think too that he bears responsibility for losing his other sister, Raina.
Right. And so she had just confronted him in a dream earlier in the episode.
Right.
So and I think he realizes.
Right. And so now he feels especially protective of his only remaining sister, especially with his mom being in witness protection, his father being gone, Big Mama being in rehab and stuff. So I think that's what that is.
Yeah, probably. I mean, and the fact too that he wanted to help Lauren as best he could.
Yeah, he really did try to help Lauren. If it wasn't for because at first I was like, dang, why didn't he take her? But I thought about it. I was like, man, he still has the tracker, the ankle bracelet, so he can't take her. He might have should have put her on a bus himself. Yeah. That way he wouldn't have had to ask anybody to do it. But
yeah.
And I was just going to jump ahead and do a little bit of predictions, because next week, Monet and Dante look like they're on a yacht or something like that. And she asks, about him backing out. And it kind of goes to what you're saying, Tiffany. I don't think Dante, even though he said he's down to take Lorenzo out, I think he's more concerned with getting out of Dodge. He's
not dumb. That's the other thing. He probably knows that that Monet and them trying to set him up.
He has an agenda.
He definitely has an agenda, because we even skipped over the part that the fact that Cain thought he was gonna die and he was saying his goodbyes. And it wasn't for the fact that he sent Mecca's picture and stuff. Monet came over there and pretty much saved him. And when she called him by his name, Dante, he was just now learning. Yeah, he's just now learning that Dante is Mecca, and you've been playing me this whole time.
Yeah. So I was going to mention that, but I was thinking about it in relation to what the preview show, because Tariq is talking to Cain, and he was basically saying after you do this, you'll never be the same. And I took that to mean after you kill your father you'll never be the same.
Right.
And so I was like, wow. So that kind of fits into Tariq's scenario, because he killed his own father and sided with a whole nother family. And so that's essentially what Cain would be doing, is killing his own father and siding with the ops. So it's
I wouldn't be surprised if Monet has a plan to kill Lorenzo and Dante.
I was thinking the same thing, Ron. I was like, she want to get both of them out of there.
There's no way she's letting it slide that he played her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. She want to get both of them out of the way so she can run the game her way.
Yes. Right. And she said that when Cain was I think he asked her about it, and she was like, she was talking about Dante, saying he did this to make sure that we had to come back to him to rely on him. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that she knows that that's true now, she knows that, she realizes that she's going to take action, do something to make sure that both of them are out of the picture. She doesn't have to rely on anyone or look over her shoulder waiting for drive-bys or nothing like that. I think Monet is smarter than
he's already set up an account for her. Like he said, it's already done. So as soon as she gets those numbers or whatever she needs for that account, Dante is gone.
Yep. Yeah.
We also don't know who's pulling his strings too, because remember, he's an informant. He's an operative. So
well, government's pulling his
yeah, they may have something else for him to do. He may not be able to leave.
Well, I think that he would run in the sense of, you know, like anybody else, become a fugitive from, you know, but at the same token, because he's so willing to take Monet and family with him, so he has to be trying to break away from everything. It only makes sense that that's what he's trying to do. I don't know if he can do it, but you know.
I was thinking about what he told Tariq, because he said he gave up Lobos to be free from the military, I guess, to gain his freedom. But I was like, if he'll give up somebody as huge and as dangerous as Lobos, what would he be willing to give up for Monet and her friend? Like, I don't think he's genuine in that, saying that he wants this family lifestyle and to get out of the game. I really think he's playing her. And I think that giving up Monet is kind of bigger than giving up Lobos for him, because I think he actually has a lot of feelings for her. And you can tell that he is kind of somewhat sincere in how he speaks about his feelings for her. But I still think he, like I said, I always say this, he has another agenda.
He has an agenda. The one thing that tripped me out that he said to Tariq when he said that he knew that Tariq killed Ghost, I was like, how would he know that?
Yeah.
I was curious. I was like, how would he know that? I said, because it's only a few people, a real close hold of people like Tommy and Tasha, Sax and Davis know, but and Monet knows. But I was just like,
the only way I could think is maybe because he's working with the feds. Maybe they're like giving him information on potential people that they're tracking, and maybe Ghost was one of those people that he kept a close eye on, that they kept a close eye on, and maybe they sent him on like some missions to, you know, look over him or to potentially try to befriend him or get in good. Because I think that a lot of people have been asking this, is there any way that Ghost and Mecca could have crossed paths at some point? And I think we're probably going to figure out that along the way, there may have been a time where, you know, they crossed paths in some way, maybe not physically, but Dante might have been at least aware of Ghost and his criminal activities, and to the point where he kept up with him enough to know that Tariq did something to him, because the government always suspected Tariq anyway.
Yeah, they did and stuff, but I was just wondering, like, how would he know though? But that's what, you know, when he said it.
But you think about what Angela was doing. She was giving up all kind of, you know, confidential information to informants and stuff like that, being loose-lipped on things that involve the investigations.
Yeah. And then he said he had been watching them for a long time too, because he was like, I know your Uncle Tommy and stuff, and Ghost, and the fact that he knew, he said Ghost. He didn't say James St. Pat, he said Ghost, you know, so.
Yeah. So I was going back to the previews. It looks like Kane is having some cold feet too, because Monet basically tells Kane, like, it's me or him, I guess referring to Lorenzo. So it's gonna be, it's terrible that their kids have to choose sides, but I could definitely see Kane choosing Monet's side, and then Diana and Drew choosing Lorenzo's side. And you know, there's part of the previews where Lorenzo is telling Drew if he's ready to do this, and Drew says he's in. So I'm like, they're scheming on somebody too, and it seems like it's going to be Monet and Dante. It's a lot going on. I really fear, and this is one of my predictions, that Kane is going to probably try to take Lorenzo. I think he's going to take his mom's side, and he might be the person that has to kill his father. But in doing so, I think Drew is going to try to protect Lorenzo, and I kind of feel like one of them kids is going to die.
It's possible.
Or either get shot at least, or injured.
Yeah, because I was going to say.
And it might be an accident, but I think that it's going to be like some chaos where Kane is confronting Lorenzo, and then maybe Drew steps in to try to, break up the situation and ends up taking a hit.
Yeah.
Well, Courtney did say we can expect more death. So I don't know if she was referring to Lauren or Lorenzo Sr. or.
I think Mecca's gonna die. I definitely think
that.
I think Mecca's gonna die.
I can see it.
Yeah, and Everett is still with us.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's see.
For now.
For now, that's what I'm saying. He's still with us.
Yeah, for now.
And we also see next week that Brayden walks into court, and it looked like he's heading up to the stand. So seems like maybe he will testify. I don't know if he.
That's what I said. Either him or Kane. Somebody's going to the thing. I do expect Tariq to get off though.
I would love to see Davis handle Brayden with the information that the prosecution has. The pictures, the tape, it just, I just think it's kind of backwards to go for Tariq when you got all that information on Brayden. And that's why I think, I'm hoping that some way they can call a mistrial, because there's just so much information that you got on Brayden, and you're actually making a deal with him.
But the good thing that Brayden has going for him is that his family has a lot of money and they have a lot of influence. And so Sweeney still being on their team and being somebody that they can call on to, pull some strings. I think Brayden probably could walk out clean, even though all of that evidence is against him.
Yeah, they're gonna paint it like he was just being reckless and having fun, and
that works for them.
Yeah, it typically happens like that.
Yeah, it works for them.
Right. You're right.
You got a Davis, so there's some hope. Davis will tear Brayden apart.
But his hands are tied. Tariq is not trying to get Brayden to go down either. So it's like, how do you make it look bad? How do you make him question everything? But the object is not for Brayden to go down either.
But how do they explain the pictures and the tape? How do you explain it?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that yet, but it's going to be that he was thrill seeking. None of it was serious. He was just thought he was playing. That's how it's going to get argued. It's not going to be that he had any kind of evil intent. He just picked up in something, got in over his head,
Jewelry heist and all that other jazz. If that stuff comes out and he walks away from that, then we know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess the only other thing from the previews for next week, it looked like Effie and Tariq are, spending some time together. She's, telling him he's not alone. So I think she's trying to endear herself to him even more. And then there's also, it looks like Tariq is running with a gun in his hand, and he and somebody else are running up in a spot. And then the last scene we see from next week is Drew standing over somebody with a gun. So, and that's going to be our season finale. So they have a lot to touch on. I think that this was a good episode, but I'm definitely trying to figure out where they go from here. If Lauren is really dead, if, Tariq can come out of this trial and walk away clean, if Brayden's going to be pulled in. I think we have all of these good avenues to explore for the season finale, especially with Dante and Monet in that situation.
It was definitely a good show. It was
a good episode.
Yep. So I just want to thank you guys for watching. We appreciate your viewership. Please drop down in the comments and let us know what you thought about this episode, and also give us your predictions for next week. We also would like for you to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and click the notification bell so that you are alerted every time we post. And we are also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, fan base. Follow us there, TikTok. We are on all social platforms. And if you aren't aware, we are also recapping Ozark. So, make sure you check out our Ozark recaps, because those are fire as well. I know they released the whole season at once, but we're doing 2 episodes at a time. So make sure you go and check that out as well. You guys have anything else to add?
No, you covered it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys again, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yeah, what's up with it? Do it cause I love it and I stuck with it. We ain't with the subbing in the cut with it. Please none of the talks, I heard enough of it. Like, what you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk about it. Real eyes, real lies all the time. Stand on it, if we said it, we don't walk around it. Loose lips, sink ships, red cup, blue strips, new phone, who this? No, we don't allow it. Really on go, I don't know what's an off day. Now we on road, came from smoking in the hall.